what if there was actual proof?
Mm-hmm.
Proof about something huge, something that could totally change how we think about death itself. That's kind of the feeling I got reading today's source. We're doing a deep dive into a really ancient text on the incarnation of the Word by St. Athanasius. Specifically, we're looking at chapter 5. It's all about the resurrection.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because he's not just stating beliefs, he's building a case.
Yeah.
Laying out what he saw as like solid proof, things people could actually observe back then.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack how he argues for the resurrection. What are his unique points? And what, nuggets of knowledge did he use? Why did he believe salvation could be accomplished in no other way?
Okay, let's unpack this because what's striking is he gives reasons for the way the crucifixion happened and the timing of the resurrection. It's very specific.
It's definitely not random. He's almost logical, forensic even. He gives these clear reasons why Christ's body was raised forthwith on the third day, not sooner, not later. Okay, so what's the first reason?
Well, first, waiting a full day showed the body was really or completely dead. No question about it. You couldn't just say he'd fainted or something.
Right. Makes sense. Prevent denial.
Exactly. But then he also says not too short an interval either. If it was only, say, 2 days, the glory of his incorruption might not have appeared so clearly.
Ah, okay. So the timing had to be just right.
And not too long either. No more than 3 days, he says, lest people should have forgotten about it or started doubting if it was, in truth, the same body.
So keep it fresh in everyone's memory.
Right. The resurrection happened, in his words, while the affair was still ringing in their ears. And the very people involved in the crucifixion were still on the spot, witnessing the fact of it.
Wow. So he's framing it as this very public, verifiable event, almost like evidence presented in court. But then he does something really interesting, doesn't he? He shifts from the past event to the present proof.
He really does. That's maybe the core of this chapter, I think. He offers what he calls a very strong proof of death being defeated. And that proof is how all the disciples of Christ despise death.
Despise death. That sounds intense.
It is. He contrasts it with before Christ's time, the divine sojourn, as he calls it. Back then, he says, even the holiest of men were afraid of death. They mourned the dead like they were gone forever, perished.
So the big shift is that now believers, they just aren't afraid. They trample on it as on something dead. That's a huge psychological change he's claiming, preferring death over denying faith.
It's a radical claim. And he gives examples. He says, even children hasten thus to die.
Children. Wow.
Yeah. And not just men, but women train themselves by bodily discipline to meet it. He observes that death itself seems weakened, so weak that even women mock at it now as a dead thing.
He's really emphasizing this isn't just like a few brave heroes, but a widespread change, even among those may be considered more vulnerable then.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in perspective he's pointing to.
And he uses that analogy, the one about the tyrant, that really paints a picture.
It's very vivid. Death is like a tyrant who has been completely conquered by the legitimate monarch. He's bound hand and foot, and people just walk by sneering at him, hitting him, totally unafraid, because of the king who has conquered him.
So the fear is gone because the conqueror, Christ, has already won.
Precisely. And he connects it straight to Scripture, doesn't he? Oh, death, where's thy victory? Oh, grave, where's thy sting? It's like the proof is in the tyrant being bound.
Okay, but he must have known people would push back, right?
Yeah.
Thinking, well, that's maybe a bit thin. Courage is subjective.
Oh, definitely. He anticipates that. He directly challenges those who might find this a slender proof.
So how does he counter that?
More analogies, actually. He compares the believer's fearlessness to Indian asbestos, which, wasn't afraid of fire. It actually showed the fire's impotence by not burning.
Ah, interesting. So the believers demonstrate death's powerlessness by facing it?
Exactly. He says just like you'd wrap yourself in asbestos to test it, or go see the defeated tyrant yourself, you have to embrace the faith of Christ to really see how impotent death now is. It's almost like try it and see.
An experiential proof, in a way.
Sort of, yeah. And he even claims that many former doubters, unbelievers, and deriders became believers. And then they started scorning death too, even becoming martyrs themselves.
So he's saying the transformation itself is observable evidence. People change radically after believing.
Right. For Athanasius, it all points to one conclusion. Christ himself and none other who is the arch-victor over death. Death used to be strong and terrible, but now, since Christ's life, death, and resurrection, it's just despised.
And he uses another analogy here, the one about the sun. I found that one really powerful.
It is. When the sun rises and the whole world is lit up, nobody doubts that it is the sun which has thus shed its light everywhere. He's basically saying Christ's effect, this victory over death's fear, is just as obvious and undeniable as the sun lighting up the world.
You can't really argue with the light being everywhere.
That's his point. He points again to the observable reality. Men naturally weak, hastening to death, unafraid, fearless. And he almost throws down a challenge to the reader, doesn't he? Like, how can you be so utterly silly and incredulous as not to realize that Christ himself gives the victory?
Yeah, it's quite direct. And he brings in other images too, like trampling a dead snake or boys mocking a defeated lion, things that show utter contempt for something once feared.
Right, driving home that death isn't just weakened, it's completely defeated and powerless in the face of faith.
Okay, so that's the argument from the believer's courage. But then he offers another line of proof based on, well, action.
Yes, this is another really key section. He draws a sharp line. Dead men cannot take effective action. Their influence stops at the grave, basically. Deeds and actions that energize others belong only to the living.
Okay, so the argument is, if Christ is dead, he shouldn't be able to do anything now.
Precisely. But Athanasius says, look around. The Savior is working mightily among men every day. He is invisibly persuading numbers of people all over the world to accept his faith and be obedient to his teaching.
He's pointing to the growth of the church, the spread of belief, as evidence of ongoing active work.
Yes, and he asks, how can anyone see this constant activity and still doubt that he has risen and lives, or that he is life itself?
And it gets specific about the effects, too, the changes in people.
Tangible things. He lists them. The adulterer stops, the murderer stops, the greedy person stops being unjust, the profane and godless man becomes religious. These are real-world transformations he claims are happening daily because of Christ's living influence.
It's not just internal feelings, but outward actions changing. And then he takes it a step further, doesn't he, into the realm of, well, spirits.
He does. He claims Christ actively routs and persecutes and overthrows the false gods and evil spirits.
So a direct confrontation with other spiritual powers.
That's how he presents it. Where Christ is named, he says, idolatry is destroyed and the fraud of evil spirits is exposed. He claims these spirits literally cannot endure that name, and they flee when they hear it.
Wow. And for Athanasius, this is definitive proof.
Absolutely. He concludes, this is the work of one who lives, not of one dead. And even more, it is the work of God.
Which leads him to that really stark question he poses.
Right. Whom, then, are we to call dead? Is it Christ who's doing all this? Obviously not, because the dead have not the faculty to affect anything. Or, he asks, should we call death dead, along with the idols and spirits which are completely ineffective and lifeless now?
He really forces a choice there. Who is truly active and alive?
And his answer is clear. The Son of God, living and effective, is active every day, but death is daily proved to be stripped of all its strength. It's the idols and evil spirits who are the dead ones, he argues, not Christ.
It's a powerful rhetorical move. Then he brings it back to Christ's body itself. Why couldn't that body just stay dead?
Yeah, he tackles that directly. He acknowledges it was mortal, offered to death on behalf of all, so of course it could not but die. That was necessary. But, he says, on the other hand, it could not remain dead because it had become the very temple of life.
The temple of life itself.
Yeah.
So its nature was fundamentally changed by housing the divine.
That seems to be the idea. And its resurrection, its aliveness, is therefore made known through its works, through all these effects we've just discussed.
And he pushes back again against needing to see the resurrected body now.
He says doubting just because you can't see him with your eyes now is like denying basic laws of nature. He uses that analogy of the blind man who knows the sun is up there even though he can't see it just from the warmth it provides.
So the effects, the warmth, are the proof, not necessarily direct sight.
Right. And then comes perhaps the most unusual proof for us today, the testimony of the evil spirits themselves.
Yeah, that part is definitely striking. What does he say they reveal?
He claims that what skeptical humans doubt, the evil spirits know. They know that he is God. And that's why he says they flee from him and fall at his feet, crying out the same things they supposedly cried when he was physically present.
Like, we know thee who thou art, the Holy One of God.
Exactly. And what have I in common with thee, thou Son of God? I implore thee, torment me not. For Athanasius, this is compelling testimony from beings who perceive reality differently, more directly, perhaps, than humans can.
So their fear and forced confession becomes another layer of proof for Christ's living power and divinity. It's quite a comprehensive argument he builds. Okay, so let's try and sort of wrap this up. What Athanasius is doing here on the Incarnation, it's not just simple faith claims, is it?
Not at all. It's a really layered argument. He uses logic about the timing, observations about human behavior, that radical shift towards despising death. Then he brings in these powerful analogies, the tyrant, the asbestos, the sun, and evidence of Christ's ongoing actions in the world, transforming lives, challenging other powers.
And finally, even that testimony from the unseen spiritual realm, it all weaves together to position the resurrection as this ultimate undeniable victory over death, the source of real, active life.
That's the picture he paints, a victory demonstrated in multiple ways, visible and invisible.
And he leaves the reader, well, leaves you, the listener, with this choice, really. Are you going to be like the person who denies the sun because they can't see it? Or will you consider the effects, the warmth, the transformed lives, the defeated fear? It kind of brings us to a final thought to chew on. If Athanasius presents this profound shift in how people face death, their ultimate fear, as maybe the most compelling proof, what does that suggest about courage, conviction, and belief when you're facing the unknown? How does observing such radical changes in others, or maybe even experiencing shifts in yourself, how does that inform what you count as evidence or what gives you conviction? Something to think about.